everyone, welcome back to Sweet Yellow House. Today we have 5 quick projects. So project number 1 is going to be this little caddy. I picked this up at the Goodwill, and this is a smaller caddy. It's not as big as the ones that I usually get. So first I'm going to wipe it down, and then I'm going to grab some DIY paint in the color Aviary. I'm going to water that down just a smidge. I usually like to do this just because it's a little thick for me, and sometimes I feel like I get a lot more like clumps and things like that. So I tend to water the paint down, and you'll see me do that throughout the video. So I'm doing a first coat, and then I'm drying that with my heat gun. And then with the second coat, I still see a little bit of some streaking through there, so I am going to go ahead and add a third coat onto that. Once I get that third coat on and dried, I go ahead and just make sure that everything's really dry and get the bottom painted as well, because I don't want to forget about that. I am going to grab the liquid patina in the clear, and I'm going to go over this and give it a really good coat. While that's drying, I have a mold that I made from my last video. Excuse me. And I'm just going to grab that and use that because I have it on hand. Once I have decided that I'm going to use that mold, I'm going to grab some odd and end leftover molds that I have, transfers that I have from the Whispering Willow transfer set. And I want to try and use up a lot of the leftover or odd and end transfers and things that I have, because I know that IOD just came out with their summer release, and I feel like things are starting to stack up on me. So I want to try to use some of those older transfers and inlays and things like that I have sitting around. So I just kind of place this where I want it, and make sure that I put some on the inside. And I'm going to use this as my gardening caddy. So here you see me just sanding down the back of that mold just to level it out so it sits a little flatter. I'm going to grab my Titebond and just put that into place. I set that aside to dry overnight, and then the next day I'm coming back in with my Jolie finishing wax in clear, and I'm going to do a coat over the whole thing. Once I had the wax on, I actually let it sit for a few minutes, and then I grabbed a lint-free towel and began to buff that in. And that's how that turned out. These caddies are a really great thing because you can use them for anything, for silverware or for art stuff, or your kids could use it to gather up their art things, or like I'm going to use it for a little gardening caddy to put all my extra stuff in. So I have this lamp that I have been kind of resisting doing anything with, and this is my project 2, obviously. So I'm going to start out by taking everything apart on this. I just clipped the cord on that and just kind of unscrewing and grabbing everything through. And once I got it all taken apart, I grabbed the paper clay, and I'm going to fill the hole where the cord is. And I noticed on the bottom of this that there was a little bit of a crack happening there. So I just went ahead and filled that in as well. I got my husband to cut off the top of that, so that's why you see it's flat. And then I went ahead, once that clay was dry, and sanded it down. Once I got that all smooth, I wiped it all down, and then I am going to use crockery from DIY Cottage Colors, and I'm going to do a coat on this. Once I got that initial coat on, it looked a little kind of flat to me. So I'm going to use some baking soda and put that in there pretty thick, and then start to apply that to this base. And I'm using a pouncing motion to make sure that I get some really good texture in there. And what I'm going for is that I want this to actually look like kind of like cement. So I purchased this little basket from the Goodwill, and I want to apply it to the top of this base, but I don't like that bottom part, so I'm going to remove that with some pliers and a hammer. And then what you see here is there's some little prongs there that I couldn't snip very close, so I grabbed my smaller snippers, and I'm going to snip that as close as I can so there's not a lot of like those odded and prongs to get stuck or poke you with. So once I have those clipped off pretty far down, I'm going to sand those with a really coarse nail file. So I grab a screw, and I don't know what you would call that. I'm using that ring so that that screw does not go down in there, and I'm applying the E6000 and letting that set up. I let that set up overnight, and then I wanted some depth to this base. It looked a little flat still to me, so I'm going to put a layer of wax on that from Jolie, and once I have that on there, then I'm going to apply some of the dark wax from DIY. I did not wipe back the clear wax. I just left it there and then used the flat wax, the black wax on top of that. I really like the way that this little pedestal basket turned out. It's really cute. It has just everything, kind of that really country rustic look to it. Project 3 is an item that I've had for several months now. I think I purchased it last year, and it's actually like a shelf sitter type item. So I'm going to start off by wiping that down, and again I'm going to grab crockery from DIY and the cottage colors, and I'm going to start by just laying down a base coat of that. Using a smaller brush because this has a lot of detail in it, and I wanted to make sure that I got full coverage with that, and that brush couldn't get into all the little details there. So I'm drying that with my heat gun, and I'm starting on my second coat. Once I have that done, I'm going to dry that again, and then I realized that again I want a little more detail. I want this to look like a garden ornamental detail that is something that is made out of like a concrete or something like that. So I add in the baking soda, and again to apply that pretty thickly, and thickly, is that a word? Pretty thick. And then again I'm going to dry that with my heat gun. Once that's dry, I grab my bare wax in white, and this wax is pretty thin. I'm not sure if it was affected by the heat or what, but I just apply that all over. And then I don't wipe it back or anything. I just kind of apply it and then brush it out with my brush, making sure that it gets in all those crevices. Then I grab the bare decorative dark, the antiquing wax, and I'm going to use that and kind of go into all those details as if like where dust or dirt would settle. Once I have that all applied, then I grab the decrepit dust, also by DIY, and I'm just using that and a brush to kind of apply that on top of where I applied the dark wax. As I'm brushing that on, I'm also grabbing a clean soft brush and just kind of brushing that in and making sure that it's stuck down and brushing away any excess. So project 4 is another lamp that I had sitting around. I've had this lamp forever, probably as long as my kids have been alive. So I don't use it anymore. So, but I really like the base of it. So again, I'm going to start off by cutting the cord and taking this apart. So I'm just kind of here like grabbing the pieces that I think I'm going to use from that. And the next step is to grab the JB Weld. I thought I'd give this another shot. Last time it was a little too, it smelled a little strong for me. So, but I just put out a little and I'm mixing it up and I'm using that to glue the parts that I want to use back together. And I'm using that little top there too, just so that I could have more of an even, you know, a level even on top. So if when I put something on there, it has more of a base to put on. So again, I grabbed the aviary in the DIY paint, adding a little water, and I'm going to start applying that to the base. Once I have that first coat applied, I use my heat gun to dry it and then go back in for the second coat, making sure that I get in all of those little crevices. I I dry that second coat, and that's pretty much where the coverage is there. I'm not too worried about, you know, leaving some areas that are streaky or whatever because I'm going to treat this in a different way. So I cover the whole thing with the Jolie clear wax, making sure that I have good coverage on that. And then I'm going back in with the DIY dark wax, and I'm going to cover everything on the lamp. I'm going to make sure that I'm putting that wax, that dark wax, into all those little crevices to bring all of the details out. And as I apply, then I'm wiping back. I'm going to grab my gilding gold wax in Empire Gold and apply that just with my finger to all the details to bring that out. You could also do this with a brush, but I just feel like I have more control just using my finger there. So I grabbed that brush that has a little bit of that dark wax left over, and I'm just going over the gold to kind of bring that back. So the top there is what I'm going to use. I have this left over from something else. I'm not sure. So I'm going to do my favorite technique on here and bring that wood to a darker color. So I'm first applying weathered wood on the top and bottom of this disc and drying the coats between with a my heat gun. So once that's all dry, I'm grabbing the liquid patina in dark and decrepit, and I'm going to apply 2 coats of this top and bottom. Once that's all dry, I grab the dark wax again, and I'm going to make sure that I'm covering this really well and kind of working that wax in. I'm going to let that sit for about 5 minutes or so and use a soft cloth and um, really burnish that wax in to shine it up some. I'm going to grab the gilding wax again, and I'm going to use a brush and actually go around the bottom part of that disc just to add some more detail to that. Once I have that gold on there, I let it sit for a few minutes just so that wax could become cured and it won't, kind of come off on my hands. So I use the rag that I use to burnish in the dark wax, and I'm just going over that gold again to bring it back. So I grabbed another screw there, and I'm going to use the E6000 and just glue that to the top of that, making sure that also the hole there has E6000 in it, and so that it'll keep everything in that screw tight in there. This is probably my favorite project. I just really like the way that it came out, and I'm just glad that I didn't have to get rid of that lamp. Project 5 threw me for a little bit of a loop. So it's this vase that is a tin, and I'm going to start out by cleaning it up, and then I'm going to grab pedal pusher from DIY paint, and I am going to paint this using that. And I did water that down again just a little bit to give me just a smoother finish there. So I did several coats of this, and then I also did do the inside top of that, since you can see it really well, and made sure that I had full coverage with that. I grabbed the folk art wax, and I always use the white and the clear mixed together, as you know, if anybody has seen my videos before. So, and then I began to apply this, and this is kind of where things started to go wrong. This was not really how I expected that. So, but I just wiped it off and I left it and came back the next day, and all of this had happened. So, I gave it to my husband and told him to clear coat it, and he used a gloss clear coat, which was fine. It's not a big deal. So you can see here it's really glossy. And then I just went back with the pedal pusher again and did a couple of coats on that, drying it between each coat with my heat gun, and just making sure that I'm covering up all of that yellow junk that came out of that. So once I got that all covered up, I'm grabbing the Jolie clear coat wax, clear wax, and applying a good hefty coat to that. I was getting a little nervous here because I didn't want that stuff to come back through, and I wasn't sure if it was going to or not. So, but once I applied that, it seemed okay. So I grabbed the white DIY wax and began to apply that all over the vase. I really worked that white wax into all those details, and then I grabbed a cloth and really rubbed that in, burnished it in really well. Once I got that where I wanted it, I again grabbed the gilding wax in the Empire Gold, and with this, I'm just going to start bringing out all the details. I'm going to do the handle and highlight all the details that are on the vase and actually do the top and the bottom trimming. I really like the way this vase turned out. I at first thought I was going to have to scrap it, and because I wasn't sure if that yellow stuff was just going to keep coming out, but it really turned out nice, better than I expected. So I'm really happy with that. I just wanted to touch on the thing that I brought out my last video about starting another channel, and I do believe I'm going to do that. I might wait until September just because I'm working on content right now for that. But I will definitely let y'all know what my plans are for that and what day that's going to launch. Please let me know which project you guys like the best, and maybe if you're going to try something like this, if you were inspired by any of these projects. Thanks for watching and spending your time with me. I really do appreciate it. If you haven't subscribed, please do, and give me a thumbs up and maybe share it to somebody that you think might enjoy the video as well. I'll see you soon.